Sojin isn't difficult to find once they know where to look. Korean immigrant communities in New York are tight-knit networks where everyone knows everyone, and a woman who's been living quietly for 8 years under an assumed name still leaves traces for those determined enough to follow them. The trail leads to a small Catholic church in Flushing where Sojin has been attending early morning mass 3 times a week for the past 5 years. Father Miguel, the elderly priest who conducts the Korean language services, remembers her well. Before we dive in, beautiful people, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe. It's the best way you can support us as we continue delivering captivating stories that'll keep you hooked every single day. A sorrowful woman who prays intensely and leaves generous donations despite her modest appearance. He tells them in heavily accented English, unaware of how much more complicated the story truly is. She lost a child, he adds softly. I could see it in her eyes, the kind of grief that never fully heals. Destiny and Jae-won exchange glances across the parish office. The priest's description of Sojin as a woman haunted by guilt suggests she blames herself for Ji-hoon's death, for the accident that took both her lover and her unborn child. Did she mention any family? Any friends who might know where she's gone? Minji asks. Father Miguel hesitates, clearly torn between pastoral discretion and concern for Sojin's welfare. She spoke of a woman who helped her who sent money. But lately she seemed frightened of this woman. She asked about sanctuary, about what the church could do to protect someone who needed to tell the truth but was afraid of the consequences. When was this? Jae-won asks urgently. 4 days ago, the same day she didn't come to morning mass for the first time in years. The timeline aligns perfectly with Marcus's investigation and Grace's escalation. Sojin knew that the past was catching up with her and she'd been preparing to either run or fight. The question is which choice she made. Their next stop is the Garment District workshop where Sojin had been employed. The owner, Mrs. Kim, is initially reluctant to discuss a former employee, but Jae-won's fluent Korean and gentle persistence eventually convince her to share what she knows. He was a good worker, she says using Sojin's assumed name. Quiet, skilled with difficult alterations, but she lived like a ghost, like someone afraid of being seen. She never talked about her past, never joined the other women for lunch or gossip. Did she leave anything behind? Any personal belongings? Destiny asks through Jae-won's translation. Mrs. Kim disappears into the back office and returns with a small cardboard box. Inside are mundane items: sewing scissors, a worn pin cushion, a thermos. But at the bottom, wrapped in tissue paper, is a photograph. The image shows a much younger Sojin standing beside Ji-hoon on what appears to be a university campus. They're both laughing, his arm around her shoulders, her hand resting protectively over her still flat stomach. It's the only physical evidence of their relationship that has survived Grace's systematic erasure of their love story. Jae-won stares at the photo with tears in his eyes. This is his brother as he remembers him, joyful, hopeful, completely in love. The man in the photograph believed in happy endings, in the possibility of building a life with the woman he loved and the child they'd created together. She came back for this 3 nights ago, Mrs. Kim continues. Very late after the shop was closed. She had keys because I trusted her with security sometimes. She took the photograph and left an envelope for me. The envelope contains $600 in cash and a note written in Korean. Jae-won translates aloud, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you for giving me a place to exist when I couldn't remember how to live. If anyone comes asking about Young-hee, tell them she died 8 years ago. Only Sojin remains. The message is clear. She's reclaiming her original identity, preparing to step out of the shadows and face whatever consequences await. But where would a traumatized woman with limited resources and no family support go when she's ready to tell the truth? The media, Destiny realizes suddenly. If she wants to expose Grace, she needs protection that only public attention can provide, somewhere she can tell her story safely, where harming her would create more problems than it solves. Minji nods slowly. The Korean-American press would be interested in a story this explosive. Family scandals involving the business elite always generate significant coverage. But which outlet would she trust, and would she have the connections to reach them? Jae-won asks. The answer comes from an unexpected source. As they leave the garment workshop, Destiny's phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. If you want the truth about Ji-hoon, meet me at the Korean War Veterans Memorial in Battery Park. Come alone and come now. Sojin. It's a trap, Minji says immediately. Grace could have forced her to send that message. Or Sojin could be ready to tell her story to the people who have the most reason to listen, Destiny counters. She knows we've been looking for her. Maybe she's decided it's time to stop running. Jae-won studies the message, noting the specificity of the location. The memorial is public but relatively quiet during weekday afternoons, offering both safety and privacy for a conversation that could reshape multiple lives. I'm going, Destiny decides. Not alone, Jae-won says firmly. She asked for a loan. If we want her trust, we need to respect her terms. And if it is a trap? If my mother's people are using Sojin to get to you? Destiny looks at him steadily. Then we'll learn exactly how far Grace is willing to go to protect her secrets. And we'll make sure the whole world learns it too. But before she can leave, Minji pulls out his phone and makes a quick call. I'm having 2 of my associates position themselves near the memorial, he explains. Not close enough to interfere but close enough to intervene if something goes wrong. You're not going completely alone even if Sojin thinks you are. Destiny nods gratefully. The protection makes Jae-won's jaw unclench slightly, though his worry remains evident in every line of his body. Be careful, he says, pulling her close. I just found you. I'm not ready to lose you to my mother's secrets. You won't, Destiny promises, though neither of them is certain she can keep that promise. As she heads toward Battery Park, Destiny doesn't know that Sojin isn't the only person waiting for her at the memorial, or that Grace Park has made a decision about how far she's willing to go to prevent this conversation from happening. The Korean War Veterans Memorial sits quietly in Battery Park, its black granite walls etched with the names of those who died in a conflict that shaped both nations' histories. It's fitting, Destiny thinks as she approaches, that the truth about the Park family's buried secrets should be revealed in a place dedicated to remembering sacrifice and loss. Sojin is smaller than she appeared in the photographs, a woman diminished by years of hiding, but with an intensity in her dark eyes that speaks of decisions finally made. She wears a simple black coat and carries a worn leather purse clutched tightly in both hands. Miss Crawford, she says in careful English. Thank you for coming alone. Thank you for trusting me, Destiny replies, settling beside her on the memorial bench. I know this must be difficult. Difficult was 8 years of silence. This is necessary. Sojin's voice is soft but steady. Your friend, the man with silver hair, is he alive? Yes, but he's unconscious. The doctors say he'll recover, but it could take time. Sojin nods, her expression pained. I am sorry. I should have spoken sooner, before anyone was hurt. But I was afraid. And Mrs. Park made fear seem like wisdom. What really happened 8 years ago? Destiny asks gently. Sojin is quiet for a long moment, her fingers tracing the edge of her purse. When she speaks, her voice carries the weight of grief that has never been properly mourned. Ji-hoon and I were going to run away together to America where his mother's influence couldn't reach us. We had saved money, applied for visas, planned everything carefully. I was 5 months pregnant, just beginning to show. She pauses and Destiny sees tears gathering in her eyes. But Mrs. Park discovered our plans. She came to see me while Ji-hoon was in a business meeting he couldn't avoid. She offered me money, enough to disappear, to start over somewhere far away. She said Ji-hoon would forget me eventually, that he was young and would find someone more suitable when his responsibilities as heir became clear. What did you tell her? I told her that I loved Ji-hoon and that he loved me and that our baby deserved to have both parents. Sojin's voice hardens. She laughed. She said that bastard children of unsuitable women don't deserve anything except to be hidden away where they can't embarrass their betters. The cruelty of Grace's words makes Destiny's stomach turn. To reduce a pregnancy to an embarrassment, a child to a liability, it reveals the depth of her willingness to dehumanize anyone who threatens her version of family propriety. I refused her money and told her that Ji-hoon and I were leaving Korea the next night. She seemed to accept this, even wished me luck. I thought perhaps she had realized that fighting us would only push Ji-hoon further away. But she hadn't accepted it, Destiny guesses. No. The next evening, Ji-hoon picked me up in his car. We were driving to Busan to catch a private boat that would take us to Japan, where we could fly to America without using official airports where Mrs. Park might have people watching. We were so careful but not careful enough. Sojin stops, her breathing becoming labored. Destiny can see that reliving this memory is physically painful, but she doesn't interrupt. Some stories need to be told completely to be believed. There was another car following us, black sedan just like the one Mrs. Park always used. We thought it was coincidence at first, but when Ji-hoon changed routes it changed too. He was trying to lose them, driving faster, taking turns that were dangerous in the dark. The other car forced you off the road, Destiny says. No, Sojin's voice drops to a whisper. Ji-hoon pulled over. He said he wouldn't risk my life and the baby's life in a car chase. He said he would call his mother and end this confrontation once and for all. The phone call. Grace never mentioned a phone call in any of her versions of the events. What did she say to him? I could only hear his side of the conversation, but it was terrible. He was pleading with her, then arguing, then becoming more and more upset. Finally he was crying. I had never seen Ji-hoon cry. Sojin reaches into her purse and pulls out an old cell phone, a model from 8 years ago, its screen cracked but apparently functional. I recorded the conversation, she admits. I knew that Mrs. Park would deny whatever she said to him, and I wanted proof of how she treated her own son. Destiny's heart pounds. Do you still have the recording? Yes. Would you like to hear what Grace Park said to make her son drive off a cliff with the woman he loved and his unborn child? The question hangs in the air like a blade. Destiny knows that whatever is on that phone will change everything, not just her understanding of Grace's capacity for cruelty, but the entire foundation of Jae-won's relationship with his mother. Play it, she says quietly. Sojin's thumb hovers over the play button, and for a moment Destiny sees not the traumatized woman she's become, but the young art student who fell in love with Ji-hoon Park and dreamed of building a life with him in America. The recording that begins to play will reveal the truth that Grace Park has spent 8 years and millions of dollars to hide. But it will also unleash consequences that none of them are prepared to face. The voice that emerges from the cracked phone speaker is unmistakably Grace's, though stripped of the composed elegance Destiny has come to associate with the Park matriarch. This is Grace in full fury, wielding words like weapons against her own son. You foolish, selfish boy. Do you think love excuses the destruction of everything your father and I built? Do you think your momentary happiness is worth the collapse of 50,000 jobs? Ji-hoon's voice, younger and more desperate than Jae-won's but recognizably similar. Mother, please. Sojin and I can make this work. We don't need to be in Seoul. I can run the American operations from New York, keep building the company while you parade your pregnant mistress around international business circles. While our competitors whisper about the Park heir who abandoned his responsibilities for a woman who trapped him with pregnancy. The accusation hits like venom. Grace's willingness to reduce Sojin to a gold digger and the pregnancy to a trap reveals the depth of her contempt for her son's choices. Ji-hoon's voice becomes strained. She didn't trap me. I love her. We planned this baby together. You plan nothing. You're 25 years old and think with your hormones instead of your brain. That girl saw an opportunity to secure her future through you, and you were fool enough to believe it was love. Mother, stop. You don't know her. You don't know what we mean to each other. Grace's laugh is bitter and cold. I know enough. I know she comes from nothing, has nothing to offer our family except scandal and embarrassment. I know that bastard child she's carrying will never be acknowledged as a true Park heir. And I know that if you proceed with this ridiculous escape plan, you will be dead to me. The silence that follows is devastating. Ji-hoon's breathing is audible, ragged with emotion and disbelief. Dead to you, he finally manages. Financially, socially and personally. I will remove you from the company, disinherit you completely, and ensure that no business in Korea or Japan will employ you. Your American visa applications will be mysteriously delayed or denied. Your bank accounts will be frozen. And when that girl realizes that you have nothing left to offer her except poverty and struggle, she will leave you for someone who can actually provide for her and her child. You would destroy me to prevent me from being happy? I would save you from destroying yourself. This infatuation will pass, Ji-hoon. They always do. But the consequences of acting on it will follow you for the rest of your life. Ji-hoon's voice when it comes again is barely a whisper. What if I choose her anyway? Then you choose to lose everything else. Your brother will become sole heir to Park Global. Your father's legacy will pass to Jae-won alone. And when you're struggling to support a family on whatever minimum wage job you can find in America, Remember that you had the choice to be responsible and chose selfishness instead. The call continues for several more minutes, with Grace systematically dismantling every argument Ji-hoon makes, every plan he's developed, every dream he's nurtured. She reveals intimate knowledge of their escape route, their financial preparations, even their intended destination in California. Her network of informants had been tracking them for weeks. But it's the final exchange that destroys any remaining doubt about Grace's role in what happened next. Mother, please, Ji-hoon's voice is breaking. Don't make me choose. I love you both. Then prove your love for me by doing what's right for this family. End this relationship. Come home. We'll handle the pregnancy quietly, discreetly. The girl can have the baby somewhere private and we'll arrange for adoption. No scandal, no embarrassment, no permanent damage to your future. You want me to abandon my child? The horror in Ji-hoon's voice is palpable. I want you to make the mature decision. A child raised by struggling parents in a foreign country has no future. A child placed with a stable, wealthy family has opportunities. You're being selfish, Ji-hoon, not loving. I can't. I won't. Grace's voice becomes ice. Then understand this clearly. If you leave Korea with that woman, you are choosing to be nothing. No money, no family, no support. I will make certain that every door closes in your face. And when you fail, when you can't provide for her or the child, when she sees what you've become, don't come crawling back to me for help. You'll be dead to me, Ji-hoon. Permanently. The recording ends with the sound of Ji-hoon's sob and the phone disconnecting. Sojin stops the playback and sits in silence, tears streaming down her face. Destiny feels nauseated by what she's heard, not just Grace's cruelty, but the systematic way she trapped her own son between love and obligation until the only escape seemed to be no escape at all. He didn't intend to kill us, Sojin says quietly. I don't think he even intended to kill himself. He was just broken. He kept driving faster and faster, crying and apologizing, saying he couldn't choose between me and his family. When I saw the cliff ahead, I tried to grab the wheel, but it was too late. You survived because you fought for survival, Destiny realizes. I survived because he threw his body over mine in the last second. Even dying, Ji-hoon protected me and our baby. But the impact. She touches her stomach reflexively. I lost everything that mattered, and Mrs. Park made sure I lost it quietly. The full horror of Grace's actions becomes clear. She hadn't just covered up a suicide, she'd orchestrated the circumstances that made suicide seem like the only option, then silenced the survivor who could testify to her manipulation. Why are you telling me this now? Destiny asks. Because Mrs. Park is doing it again. Different son, different woman, but the same tactics. She will destroy Jae-won's happiness the same way she destroyed Ji-hoon's. And she will convince herself that she's being protective rather than controlling. Sojin reaches into her purse again and pulls out a small digital recorder, newer technology than the phone, clearly purchased recently. I've made copies of everything, the phone recording, my medical records from the hospital, documentation of the money transfers, even photographs of my injuries. If something happens to me, if I disappear like the others, these recordings will be sent automatically to every major news outlet in Korea and America. Others? Destiny asks. The nurse who helped your friend research my case, the journalist in Seoul who was investigating the accident. Anyone who gets too close to the truth about Ji-hoon's death finds their life becoming very complicated very quickly. Grace's reach is more extensive than any of them realized. She's not just silencing individual threats, she's maintaining an entire network of surveillance and intimidation that spans 2 continents. What do you want from me? Destiny asks. Help me tell this story properly. Your friend was investigating for you, but he's not the writer. You are. You understand how to make people care about the truth, how to make them see beyond the money and power to the human cost. It's a profound request not just to expose Grace's crimes, but to give voice to Ji-hoon's story, to honor the love that Grace tried to erase. And Jae-won, Sojin continues, he needs to hear this recording too. He needs to understand that his mother's love is conditional, controlling, and ultimately destructive. He needs to know what she's capable of before she does to him what she did to Ji-hoon. I'll make sure he hears it, Destiny promises. But Sojin, once this comes out, there's no going back. Grace will use every resource she has to destroy your credibility, to paint you as unstable or vindictive. Are you prepared for that? Sojin meets her eyes with surprising strength. I've been dead for 8 years, Miss Crawford. Living in fear, hiding from my own identity, mourning a man and a child I wasn't allowed to grieve publicly. Whatever Mrs. Park does to me now can't be worse than what she's already done. Then we move forward together, Destiny says. But we need to get you somewhere safe first, somewhere Grace's people can't reach you before we can release the evidence. Minji can help with that, a voice says behind them. Both women turn to find Jae-won standing a respectful distance away, his face pale and stricken. He's clearly been listening long enough to hear at least part of the recording. Jae-won, Destiny starts, but he raises a hand. I heard enough. His voice is thick with emotion. I heard my mother destroy my brother. I heard her make love into a weapon and family into a trap. He moves closer, his eyes finding Sojin. When he speaks, it's in Korean, words that Destiny doesn't understand but whose meaning is clear from his tone. An apology. A recognition. An acknowledgement of Sojin's pain and his family's responsibility for it. Sojin responds in Korean, her voice gentle despite everything. Then she switches to English for Destiny's benefit. Your brother loved you very much. He talked about you often, about how you would understand his choice if only he could explain it to you. He wanted to tell you about the baby, about our plans. But your mother made him promise not to involve you, said it would only hurt you when everything fell apart. She isolated him, Jae-won realizes. Made him think he was alone in his choice, that no one would support him. The same thing she's trying to do to you now, Destiny observes. Isolating you from me, making our love seem like a threat to everything else you care about. Jae-won looks at her, then at Sojin, then at the memorial walls surrounding them. Names of the dead, carved in stone, remembered forever. His brother should have a memorial too, not the sanitized corporate monument Grace erected, but something that honors the truth of who he was and what he tried to build. We release everything, he decides. The recording, the medical records, the financial transfers, all of it. And we do it together, you, me, and Sojin as witnesses to what happened and advocates for making sure it never happens again. Your mother will never forgive you, Sojin warns. My mother forfeited the right to my forgiveness when she drove Ji-hoon to his death. Jae-won's voice is harder than Destiny has ever heard it. I spent 8 years mourning him and feeling guilty that I couldn't save him. Now I know the truth. I couldn't save him because I didn't know he needed saving. She made sure of that. But we can save others, Destiny adds. Other children trapped between family expectations and personal happiness. Other people who think they have to choose between love and duty. That's what this story can do if we tell it right. Sojin pulls out the digital recorder and hands it to Jae-won. This is your brother's legacy. His voice, his truth, his love. Make sure the world knows that Ji-hoon Park chose love even when it cost him everything. Jae-won takes the recorder with reverent hands, holding it like the precious artifact it is. His brother's last conversation, preserved in digital amber, waiting 8 years to finally be heard. We need to move quickly, Minji says, appearing with his 2 associates. Grace will know by now that this meeting happened. She'll escalate. Let her, Jae-won says. We're done hiding. We're done being afraid of her tactics. And we're done letting her control our lives through fear and manipulation. But as they leave the memorial, none of them notices the figure watching from a maintenance building across the park, or the urgent phone call being placed to Grace Park's security team. The truth is about to break free, and the fallout will be more explosive than any of them imagine. Back at Mount Sinai Hospital, Marcus begins to stir. His eyes flutter open slowly, adjusting to the harsh fluorescent lights and the steady beep of monitors. Everything hurts, a symphony of pain that tells him he's very much alive despite whatever happened. A nurse appears immediately, checking his vitals and asking standard questions. Name, date, location. Marcus answers mechanically, his mind trying to piece together the fragmented memories of early morning, Queens, the address, the delivery truck appearing out of nowhere. The accident, he manages. Was it really an accident? The nurse's expression is carefully neutral. The police will want to talk to you when you're feeling stronger. Your friend Miss Crawford has been here every day. Should I call her? Yes, Marcus says, then adds, and tell her I remember everything. Tell her Sojin is real and the story is bigger than we thought. As the nurse leaves to make the call, Marcus closes his eyes and reconstructs those final moments before impact. The black sedan parked down the street, engine running, watching. The delivery truck that seemed to accelerate toward him rather than brake. The deliberate nature of what happened. Grace Park had tried to kill him. Not attempted murder in the legal sense perhaps, but orchestrated circumstances that should have resulted in his death. And if he died, the investigation into Ji-hoon would have died with him, leaving Destiny vulnerable and uninformed about the danger she faced. But he's alive. And now the Park family will learn that silencing witnesses isn't as easy as Grace assumed. The war has casualties on both sides now, and Marcus is ready to ensure that his near-death experience counts for something. In her penthouse office, Grace receives the report about the Battery Park meeting with growing alarm. Sojin has made contact. The recording still exists. And her son has chosen to stand with the women who threaten everything she's worked to protect. She sits in silence for a long moment, weighing options with the calculation that has defined her entire career. Fighting will be costly, messy, potentially destructive to Park Global's reputation. But surrendering means admitting that Ji-hoon's death was her fault, that her methods were wrong, that love might actually be worth the risks she spent decades trying to prevent. Grace Park didn't build an empire by admitting mistakes. She makes a call to her head of legal, then another to her publicity team, then a third to the most influential board members of Park Global. If her son wants war, she'll give him war. But she'll fight on her terms with her weapons on battlefields she spent 30 years preparing. The truth may be a powerful force, but Grace knows that truth can be shaped, contextualized, and managed by those with enough resources and determination. Sojin's story is tragic certainly, but it's also the story of an unstable young woman who led Grace's son to his death and now seeks revenge by manipulating his surviving brother. That's the narrative Grace will build. And she has the money, the influence, and the media connections to make it stick. Some battles are won not by being right, but by being louder, more persistent, and more willing to fight dirty than your opponent. Grace Park has never lost a war. And she doesn't intend to start now. If this revelation left you breathless, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Because in the final episode, all secrets will be exposed, all debts will be paid, and Grace Park will face the consequences of her choices. When truth collides with power, when love challenges legacy, and when the past refuses to stay buried, someone's world is about to shatter. The finale will change everything. Don't miss it. If you enjoyed this story, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, beautiful people. See you in the next one.